Hello and welcome to the Wire Primetime. I'm Siddharth Varadarajan. The first phase of the much-awaited Lok Sabha election is exactly 1 week away today. On the 19th, the state of Tamil Nadu and a whole bunch of other states in the northeast and regions in Jammu Kashmir and elsewhere will be voting. This is the single largest phase, but essentially the Lok Sabha election of 2024 can no longer be said to be an event happening in the future. It's now well upon us. Joining me to discuss LS 2024, the issues before the people, the way in which the campaign has been fought, and the possible combinations and permutations that could emerge once the dust has settled is Professor Zoya Hasan, Emeritus Professor at Jawaharlal Nehru University and a long-term watcher of Indian politics and a student of Indian politics. Professor Hasan, you've seen the sound and fury of the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Speeches, rallies. In the case of the Congress, there's a manifesto out. The BJP's manifesto isn't out yet. How would you characterize the principal approach of the Bharatiya Janata Party today? Mr. Modi is speaking of 370 for BJP, speaking of 400. What is the primary promise that he's holding out to the electorate in India, and how credible do you think that promise is? How easily do you think he can sway voters this time around compared to 2014 or 2019?
Thank you, Siddharth. I think this is definitely a momentous election, and it's really surprising that with elections around the corner, as you just said, the BJP has not yet come out with its manifesto, whereas the Congress published its manifesto on the 5th of April. Now, this perhaps suggests that the BJP is assuming that the 2024 election is a foregone, the results of the 2024 election is a foregone conclusion. And therefore this whole hype about 400 par and 370 and so on. But the fact of the matter is that if we look at the last 3 weeks of campaigning, I'm not sure if there's that much sound and fury. There is fury from the BJP, but as far as the strategy of the BJP is concerned, it's clear that they do not want to focus on their record or success in the last 10 years. They talk about the past, they talk about the glories of the future, which is Viksit Bharat in 2047, but they do not talk about the present. And I think the media has also not pinned them down on their performance. So they don't really want any attention to be focused on the performance of the government. And frankly, the performance of the government as far as the economy is concerned or the polity is concerned has not been that great. So, and also, if we were to go by the recent CSDS survey, which was published in The Hindu yesterday, it's clear that there are 3 or 4 issues that matter to the people. One is unemployment, the other is inflation, corruption, and so on. Now, these matter to the people, so there is anti-incumbency, but there is a very concerted attempt to neutralize the anti-incumbency by bringing the election back to communal polarization. If we look at the Prime Minister's reaction to the Congress manifesto and for him to liken it to the Muslim League is a clear indication that he wants to polarize the election, because there's frankly no relationship between the Congress manifesto and the Muslim League. So I mean, to your question as what is their strategy? Their strategy is polarizing the electorate.
In fact, I was struck by speeches that Mr. Modi has made. I mean, the attack on the Congress manifesto as being a reflection of the pre-partition Muslim League is one example. But I think the very first speech he made, I think maybe it was in Coimbatore, somewhere in South India, where he responded to Rahul Gandhi's, I thought, rather inept reference to Shakti and so on. I mean, I'm not sure what point Rahul Gandhi was trying to make, but essentially he was using Shakti as a synonym for takat, for strength, that BJP is misusing its strength and the powers that it has to target the opposition in an unfair fashion. That's essentially what Rahul Gandhi was saying. And Mr. Modi tried to turn this around by saying that Rahul Gandhi has come out against Shakti. And then he pretty much dons the mantle of a religious person appealing to a religious crowd when he says that in Hinduism, Shakti represents, it's a synonym for Shiv. And then he spoke about Shakti of women. And he kind of turned the whole thing into into characterizing Rahul Gandhi as being somehow anti-Hindu. And then you have the next speech where they attack the Congress manifesto, which actually has a bunch of interesting proposals.
Very interesting.
On jobs, employment.
Exactly.
On, of course, there's the caste survey, but also stuff on media and constitutional freedoms, etc. Instead of responding to some of those proposals, he instead has this broad brush characterization of the entire manifesto as borrowing on the one hand from pre-partition Muslim League, and I frankly, I think Batware ki Rajniti, that they're going to divide or partition the country, which
reeks of divisiveness.
Frankly, even if you go by the BJP's own sense of what is divisive, what is appeasement, the kind of pet phrases they use, clearly they don't like the proposal to have a caste census, which is there in the Congress manifesto. And perhaps they don't like the proposal the Congress party made for reservation in the private sector and so on. I can see a certain Savarna mindset saying that, this is divisive, right? But on the Hindu-Muslim axis, there actually is nothing in the Congress manifesto that even remotely allows itself to be used by the BJP for this purpose. So, frankly, I don't even know what it is that he was referencing, but it was simply enough for him to say that this is, at this stage of the BJP's politics, where you've poisoned or you filled the electorate's mind with sort of divisiveness, right, or this Hindu-Muslim idea, it's enough to simply indicate that the Congress, you need to use a Muslim word along with Congress in order to then accomplish your goal. And I'm surprised that the complaints that the Congress party and others have made at the Election Commission, that both Mr. Modi's reference to Shakti and the Muslim League, people have filed this as complaints for violating the Model Code of Conduct. The EC has not, responded yet, which brings me to a question everybody, asks, and there is also a reference in a way. The CSDS poll talks about people not having too much of faith in the functioning of the Election Commission and so on. This election, I think universally for the first time, the world also seems to be saying that this isn't a level playing field, that somehow the cards are stacked in favor of the ruling party, and serious questions are being raised about the credibility of the Election Commission and its ability to actually function as an independent body. Do you think these, allegations of this kind have been made in the past too, but do you think there's something different in 2024 that has led to people feeling alarmed about the Election Commission?
I think this is a very important issue, because for so long the Election Commission has been considered the bulwark of free and fair elections. This is perhaps the first time when there are serious doubts that have been raised about the fairness of the Election Commission. And I think this has to do with 2 or 3 things. One, of course, the appointment of election commissioners. The fact that the government changed the composition of the Election Commission and decided that it would be the Prime Minister, Union Minister and the Leader of the Opposition. So there are serious issues, how fair that can be. And then, of course, I think secondly and very importantly, not just in this election, but even in the 2019 elections, there were a number of complaints about the Model Code of Conduct, and that the Prime Minister violated the Model Code of Conduct. And the Election Commission has not been able to do very much on that. So I think one of the major problems pertains to the application, fair application of the Model Code of Conduct. The third, of course, is the scheduling of elections.
Yeah.
I mean, this time we have the longest election.
It defies reason.
On,
it defies
it
reason.
defies reason. It is going to go on for 47 days. It's the world's longest election. Now, there is really no clear justification that has been given by the Election Commission other than the fact that they need to move security forces from one state to the other, and therefore the election is much longer. But the interesting thing is that even in some states like Maharashtra, where, for example, last time the election was held in a limited number of phases, the number of phases have been increased. There's an election for one constituency in Kashmir, which is in 2 or 3 phases. Now, what does that say about the security situation, and what does that say about the government's claims about bringing that everything is fine? And also, we must not forget that after all, this government has been going on with one nation, one election. Now, if the Lok Sabha elections is taking 47 days to complete, then one nation, one election, Lok Sabha election plus Vidhan Sabha elections can go on for 1 year. So I think there are serious issues, and of course I think the point you were making earlier on in this question with regard to the non-level playing field. It is a non-level playing field not only because of the Election Commission, but a number of other reasons which have to do with money. Okay. And of course, the Electoral Bonds issue has exposed how unleveled the playing field is. And then of course, the use and misuse of central agencies.
So if you just go step by step, I mean, obviously one benefit from, or one consequence of having an excessively long election campaign, an election sort of voting period, is that it favors the party with the deepest pockets.
Quite right.
So they can sustain their political propaganda and their messaging at a very high level for a long period of time, which perhaps the Congress party with its frozen accounts is going to be unable to do. Do you feel, given the sort of electoral bonds narrative that now the opposition has, that the BJP is on the back foot somewhat? In other words, they may well have the money that they have harvested from electoral bonds and other sources. So they're sitting on a very huge war chest. But do you feel the opposition has been effective so far in reaching the electorate about the reality of electoral bonds? Do people see this as a scam, or is it still a kind of esoteric topic as far as ordinary voters are concerned? I'm told that in the Hindi heartland, for example, the extent to which the local papers and TV channels have reported the reality of electoral bonds is, they haven't really, gone into too much of detail. So how effective do you think the electoral bonds scam or the Chanda Ghotala is going to be in the hands? I mean, is this a weapon the opposition
Chanda
can
do, dhanda lo.
Right.
I think there are two issues that you've raised. One, whether one pertains to BJP's reaction to it, and the other is whether the opposition has been effective in taking it to the people. I think as far as the first is concerned, the BJP is shaken by the Supreme Court verdict, because it probably did not expect that all this information will have to be made public by the Supreme Court in the midst of the election campaign. In fact, several activists have also pointed out that even those who had been, transparency activists, even they did not, they expected that, or they hoped that it would, the electoral bonds would be declared unconstitutional, but they did not expect that the entire information would be made public.
Although the government fought tooth and nail, it has to be said.
Government fought tooth and nail. The State Bank of India was very reluctant to part with this information, but was compelled to do so by the Supreme Court. So I think this has shaken them, and the letter written by 600 lawyers, led by no less than Harish Salve, is an indication that it has hurt the government. It has shaken.
A letter which Mr. Modi Very publicly endorsed.
Exactly, which he endorsed, and he tweeted
Right.
that letter.
Right.
Now, whether this will have an impact on elections, I think that remains to be seen, but I do think that corruption is still a very big issue. And even, I mean, although so far it doesn't look like the opposition has been able to take the issue to the people, largely because the big media is not is not really making an issue of it. Although I have to say, to be fair, some newspapers like the Hindu and the Indian Express have, and of course the Wire most notably, has been carrying information on this and data analysis and so on. But I do think that even if the opposition hasn't been able to take it, it has certainly dented the BJP's anti-corruption plank. The BJP cannot claim now to be the cleanest party after the Electoral Bonds issue. And so I think I really do think that this is one of the biggest issues in this election, and it will really be, and one of the reasons I think, again to go back to one of your earlier questions, why the Prime Minister and the party is harping on Hindu-Muslim issues and presenting themselves as the Hindu party and everyone else as anti-Hindu, is because somewhere they know that the Electoral Bonds issue and the exposés of corruption and the quid pro quo arrangements between the donors and receivers has affected them, and somewhere or the other it will become a subject of discussion.
Professor Hasan, one other aspect of this unlevel playing field that you mentioned is the use of agencies to arrest and target the opposition. There is anecdotal evidence and some survey data which indicates that the public at large is actually quite skeptical of, or rather is quite skeptical of the Modi government's claims to have correctly targeted these people. In other words, a lot of in Delhi and elsewhere, people say that, well, Kejriwal, it's a bit odd that he's been arrested on election eve. Even those people who are prepared to believe that he may have done something wrong are surprised and saying that, look, the fact that he was arrested on the eve of the election is clearly an attempt to undermine Aam Aadmi Party. And you have similar examples elsewhere. Do you feel that the government has overplayed its hand, that the blatant use of agencies to target opposition leaders? I mean, people have commented on how this is something even Indira Gandhi didn't do. I mean, she had them all in jail during the emergency, but once she decided to have elections and people got released, there was no attempt to rearrest them or to freeze their accounts, right? This time you have a very different situation. Has Mr. Modi overplayed his hand?
I think I would agree with you that the government has overplayed its hand in arresting opposition leaders, particularly Soren and Kejriwal. And I think Kejriwal, because it's in Delhi and it's the capital, this has really made big news. It has made big news, and also, but also it's not just the arrest of these two leaders. There's so many other leaders who have also been arrested, and then, as you said, freezing Congress accounts. I mean, would you freeze the accounts of the main opposition party in the run-up to the elections? Now, these are clear indications of misuse of a central agency. But there's another thing where I think Mr. Modi and his party have overplayed their hand, is in welcoming
people accused of corruption.
People accused of corruption into their party. Now, I remember
the so-called washing machine.
Yeah, I remember reading a report in the Wire, and also I think in print, which says that almost 24% of the candidates so far announced by the ruling party are defectors from other parties, many from the Congress, and most of them have corruption charges against them. And once they enter the BJP, as you said,
and then there was that Indian Express story about how 23 out of 25 opposition leaders facing corruption charges found their cases vanishing or
I
slowing
think
down.
the washing machine
Right.
metaphor
Right.
is catching up.
Right.
I think that is such an interesting metaphor, and the Congress ad on the front page of the Indian Express last week, with a politician coming out of the washing machine, I think captures this very well. So I think I would go with you, agree with you that they are overplaying their hand, particularly possibly the arrest of Arvind Kejriwal, and then soon thereafter Sanjay Singh, who was their Rajya Sabha MP, who was accused on charges for which Arvind Kejriwal is in jail, has got bail.
Right.
So that also dilutes the whole case against the Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal.
Elections are about ruling party versus the opposition, and what messaging Mr. Modi and his colleagues are taking to the electorate. The Congress party has its manifesto out. Broadly, we know that the India alliance stands for a certain set of values, although this alliance hasn't quite gelled in the way that its leaders had promised last year. In Punjab, there is no alliance. In West Bengal, there isn't an alliance. In Maharashtra, it's not as seamless with at least Prakash Ambedkar out of it, and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, your alliance and your manifesto and all are as effective as the kind of candidates that you put up on the ground and the kind of fight you wage. Do you feel that the Congress party, it won applause for its manifesto, innovative proposals, timely publication of the manifesto and so on, but inexplicable delay in announcing its candidates in various seats? Delhi, for example, you would have thought that the 3 seats which the Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress agreed will be fought by the Congress ought to have named its candidates, even though the elections are later, but you give your candidate time to campaign. In Uttar Pradesh, the 2 safe or relatively safe Congress seats, Raebareli certainly is safe, but Amethi, which was Rahul Gandhi's seat until 2019, the party has not announced who will fight. Do you think somewhere down the line this sends a message of Congress lacking confidence, certainly in a state like Uttar Pradesh? Crucial state.
There is really an inexplicable delay in announcing candidates, as indeed the Congress was slow in building up the India alliance, because let's face it, Congress was really the chief mover behind the opposition alliance, but then they got so preoccupied with the assembly elections in the 3 states in November that the whole process of bringing the opposition together was slowed. Now again, even after the announcement of the election, they have been rather slow in announcing their candidates, and they seem to be doing it almost like 3 or 4 candidates are announced at a time. I mean, this is not the way the leading opposition party should be announcing its candidates. As to UP, I think you're quite right that Raebareli and Amethi, I mean, these were, at least Raebareli even now seems to be a safe seat for the Congress. Amethi not, obviously, because Smriti Irani defeated Rahul Gandhi in 2019. But even then, the Congress should by now have announced its candidates, and one expected that the Gandhis, Rahul Gandhi and possibly Priyanka Gandhi, would contest these two seats. And if they don't contest from these 2 seats, or if Rahul Gandhi, for example, and we don't know about Priyanka Gandhi, but let's say if Rahul Gandhi were to decide not to contest from Amethi, I think that would send a bad message in UP, which is so crucial, even though we know that the Congress is down and out in UP. But not contesting the Amethi election would send the message that you're abandoning.
With your strongest names. And not only that you're abandoning these 2 seats, but
you're abandoning UP virtually.
Yeah, exactly, because there is a coalition with the Samajwadi Party. In the past, the SP has always complained that the Congress has not held up its end of the fight, and that this will be tantamount to walking away.
You're absolutely right. I think it would not only demoralize the Congress, it will also affect adversely the Samajwadi Party. So the alliance stands to lose by this delay on the part of the Congress in announcing this election. And above all, if the main leader and the most powerful leader of the Congress, Rahul Gandhi, if he decides not to contest, then how can we really expect others to take the fight?
Right. You are a political science professor. I'm not. You're not a Jyotishi, but Mr. Modi is talking of 370. Do you think there is any configuration in which 370 is possible, or do you think that even holding on to 303, which is what he won in 2019, is going to be difficult for Mr. Modi?
Well, as you said, I'm definitely not an astrologer, and therefore cannot, and I'm not even a psephologist.
Right.
So therefore I cannot, and I'm not into surveys or opinion surveys, so therefore I'm really in no position to make a prediction. But I can, as a political analyst, can certainly say that this whole 400 par and that 370 is in the bag of the BJP. I think this is just hype, and the media is adding to that hype by going on for the last 1 month discussing 400 par, 400 par. Now, I think this is really this 400 par and 370 is really a way of demoralizing the opposition and motivating their own cadres. Now, logically, if we look at this election, I think there are 3 key battleground states: Karnataka, Maharashtra, and Bihar. In these 3 states, in 2019, the BJP did very well. It was almost at saturation point, not 100%.
And these 3 states amount to 116 seats.
116 seats, and they won
and BJP
roughly
won 108.
108 seats. Now, it seems very unlikely that BJP can repeat the 2019 performance in these 3 states. Now, if the BJP even loses 30% of what they had won in 2019, they may not even be able to cross 272, the majority mark, leave alone 372. So, sticking my neck out, I would say the possibility of BJP touching a majority 272 mark is.
So you're saying even if
is not really
because let's not forget
all that clear.
That you mentioned 3 states where the BJP did really well, but they also did really, really well, winning virtually 100% of the seats in Rajasthan, Gujarat, Delhi, Himachal, Uttarakhand, Haryana, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand. You're saying even if the BJP holds on to this other set of states where they got virtually 100%.
But of the states that you've mentioned,
right, Haryana and Delhi certainly.
Haryana and Delhi, they're very unlikely to repeat the 2019 performance. So there itself, they may be down by another 7 or 8 seats. Now, yes, it is true that in the Hindi-speaking states, they are still holding sway, and they are likely to do
But you're saying that
very well.
Even if they do lose only 6 or 7, the fact that they may have major losses in the 3 states that you mentioned.
Where are they going to make
Maharashtra,
up?
Karnataka, and
Where are they going to make up their losses? The only state where there is some chance of their making up their losses. Well, West Bengal and UP, as you were saying earlier before.
Odisha too, I think they're hoping that some votes will shift from the BJD. I've talked to BJP people who confidently speak about increasing their tally in Odisha by as many as 10 seats. BJP.
Really?
So it was 8 versus 12 last time. BJD 12, BJP 8.
So it could be.
They're talking now of the BJP going up to as many as 18 seats, which could be one reason actually why Naveen Babu called off because he understood what was happening, and I don't know. But they're confident about gaining in Bengal, in Odisha, UP of course, and these 3 states seem reasonable terrain for having those kinds of expectations. They also are targeting Tamil Nadu and Kerala, where I don't think there's any chance of the BJP increasing its tally, even entering the scoreboard.
I think there's very little chance that they will be able to make any gains in South India or in Tamil Nadu and so on. But yes, the three states that you've mentioned, West Bengal, Orissa and UP.
UP.
Well, they might make some gains. I'm not sure whether they will make very large gains there and whether those gains will be enough
To offset the losses elsewhere.
to compensate for their losses in Karnataka, Bihar and Maharashtra. So I think at the moment BJP is sort of just about poised to possibly come close to the majority mark, but certainly it looks difficult that it would be able to make it to 3.
Well, we are just a week away from phase 1 and there's plenty of excitement left in this election, hopefully.
Absolutely.
We'll have to leave it there, Professor Hasan. Thank you for joining us in this discussion.
Thank you. Great pleasure.
Thank you. That pretty much wraps up this edition of Wire Primetime. We've talked about a broad outlook for the election as we approach the first phase. This will be the first of many discussions that I will be having with guests. Plus, of course, the Wire's channel itself will be giving you plenty of coverage both in studio and on the ground as our colleagues travel to different parts of the state to give you a sense of what's happening in terms of the election battle. Thank you so much for watching The Wire.